Alright guys, do you want to know a little fun fact I noticed while watching this movie? It just, like literally, I would say 50 minutes in the movie, it just hit me, just out of nowhere. But the director of this movie, Jean-Marc Vallee, just recently made a film called Dallas Buyers Club. That movie starred Matthew McConaughey and that just won him an Oscar. Now he just made a film a year later, literally, called Wild, starring Reese Witherspoon, and she just might win an Oscar for this, I don't know. But I think it's pretty cool. Matthew McConaughey and Reese Witherspoon were in Mud together, and that was my favorite movie last year. So, yeah. Like, within the same year, or within the same time period, they were working with the same guy on 2 different movies. I guess I'm the only one that finds that fascinating. Alright, let's go. Let's start. Okay, here we go. Anyway, hey there guys, what's up? It's Auto.Mike18 here with another movie review. Guys, in this video I'm going to be reviewing a film that, again, like my review for The Imitation Game, in that review I said, it took me a month and a half to see that movie. Now in this video it took me like 3 weeks to see this movie because of a limited release. Nevertheless, in this video I'm going to be reviewing Wild. Now, Wild is a movie starring Reese Witherspoon in the lead role. And, again, I think this movie sort of flew under my radar, mainly because it had been getting an insane amount of Oscar buzz for Reese Witherspoon's performance, and I had not even heard of this movie until it came out early December. And then I heard about it, and I'm like, oh, okay, gonna have to go see that now. And then it finally just came to my theater, a little while ago, my indie theater, and I saw 2 movies in the same day. I saw Wild, and I saw The Imitation Game right after, so I did a double feature, which was pretty cool. So yeah, now just a little disclaimer guys, before I get into the plot of this film, before I start describing the plot, I just want to make this known. I don't know if this affected my feelings towards the film. I don't know if the first 2 minutes of the movie were very important, but I actually missed the first 2 minutes of this movie. I was late coming to the film. I actually got my ticket on time, but you see, going to the indie theater that I normally go to requires me to pay with a parking meter, pay instead of like going into a parking garage. It's so much easier. I have to actually pay money in a parking meter using quarters, and there was just such a giant fiasco parking outside. Parking sucks at this indie theater that I go to, and it made me miss the first 2 minutes of the movie. I think I came into the movie right in the scene where Reese Witherspoon was talking on the phone with some guy. I'm assuming it was her ex-husband, but I can't remember for sure. I don't remember the face of the man in the beginning, but I'm sure it was him. Did anything interesting happen before that scene? Like, I probably missed the opening title credits. I probably missed, like, a couple of interesting or important shots, but I'm not entirely sure. Let me know if I did, guys, please. Anyway, getting into Wild. Wild tells the story of a young, determined woman by the name of Cheryl Strayed, played by Reese Witherspoon. Strayed. Okay. She decides to hike the Pacific Crest Trail, which I believe is in California. Don't quote me on that. Which is an extremely long trail, and by the end of her journey, she has gone nearly over 1,000 miles. Would you believe that? I don't think I've ever driven that far in my life, 1,000 miles. I probably have. I don't know. But that is a pretty long distance, walking distance. It's going to take her a long amount of time to do that. But she's going on this hike for a very specific reason. She has made a lot of mistakes in the few years before she's decided to take this hike. She has gone down the wrong path. She has upset some important people in her life. She has made bad decisions regarding drugs and sleeping around a lot with a lot of guys. And she sort of wants to go on this walk, go on this hike to sort of cleanse herself from the mistakes and the bad path she has followed down. And she feels in order to do that, she needs to go on this hike. And she's going to endure a lot of different problems as she goes on this hike. Mainly problems concerning her past life. And that this is a story that relies heavily on flashbacks and even flashbacks within flashbacks are in this movie. And I think that is actually a pretty interesting way to tell a story. It's different because a lot of people, a lot of screenwriters are going to try to sway away from using flashbacks, and, I'm actually taking a screenwriting course myself. My professor is saying he personally feels that it's best to always use less flashbacks, less narration, or less voiceover if you need be, and just use dialogue or just use shots. And that is something Jean-Marc Vallee has strayed away from in doing with this film. He relies heavily on flashbacks and a lot of shots of Reese Witherspoon, just her. And she's in this movie. She's like the head of this movie. She's in 98% of the movie. She's in pretty much every single shot in this film. So that's a lot of work. So I definitely got to commend Reese Witherspoon on that. But here's how I feel about Wild, guys. It is definitely a compelling and sort of uplifting story. Definitely exhilarating story in moments, but it's more so a personal story. It's not just about the journey. It's about Reese Witherspoon trying to find herself or sort of redeem herself on this journey. And I like this movie because of that. The film's central story is about a person who's lived a shitty life. And she knows she's lived a shitty life. She knows she's done some shitty things. She's done heroin. She's slept around with a lot of guys. She has made mistakes concerning friends and a husband and her mother, played by Laura Dern in the film. And she's very aware of this. So I like whenever a movie focuses on the fact that a character knows they've made a lot of mistakes, yet they still self-examine themselves, and they come to terms with the fact that that they're not a great person and they've made a ton and heaping amount of mistakes. And that's something I really loved about Wild. And it's something that's hard for a lot of people to do, and that's a thing that I loved about the character of Cheryl Strayed. She's a very flawed character. So she's a character it's very hard to root for her. As the flashbacks go on and we see all these shots of her making all these mistakes, we're like, what are you doing? Why are you doing something like that? How is Jean-Marc Vallee and the filmmakers trying to get us to care for this character or show compassion towards her? Why should we? She's just an idiot. She makes all these mistakes. The fact that she's trying to redeem herself by doing this walk and sort of prove to herself that she's not that person she once was. And she's trying to become a different, better person. She's trying to get on the right path. And along this hike, along this path, she comes across temptations here or there. And actually, a few might work, a few don't work. And she steps away from some. I mean, she is definitely trying to improve herself. And that is why we're rooting for her. And that is carried out extremely well by the script and by Reese Witherspoon's performance. And those are the two big things riding on this movie. If the script is bad, if the dialogue in which she meets other characters is crummy, or the shots don't mix well, I mean, we need all of that in order to convey the story. And it all paid off in the end, in my opinion. So, getting into the central performance, guys, Reese Witherspoon is really good in this movie. Definitely Oscar-worthy. Like I said, I don't think she personally is going to win the Oscar. I think Julianne Moore has more chances for her film called Still Alice. But it would be awesome to see Reese Witherspoon win Best Actress this year. And then last year, Matthew McConaughey won Best Actor. And both of them were directed by Jean-Marc Vallee. And even, let's say for argument's sake, Laura Dern, which is never going to happen, gets nominated for Best Supporting Actress, and she was to win that. Not going to happen, but that would be pretty cool. That would show that Jean-Marc Vallee is a talented director when it comes to directing his actors. And you can definitely tell that is the same case with Reese Witherspoon in this movie. She really has a lot of emotional weight on her shoulders. Yes, she has a giant backpack. Look at that thing. Yeah, that's huge. And a lot of people are always commenting on her along her trail. Damn, that's some backpack. Oh, look at that backpack you got on there. You got to unload some of that stuff. You're going to pass out because you're carrying so much weight. She not only has the weight of that backpack on her shoulders, she has the weight of all of her past actions. And all that is riding on her shoulders. And she wants to get rid of all of that weight by going on this hike. And I completely understand why she is. She gave a really solid, really strong performance in scenes where there's just shots of her, or shots of her reacting to something, or shots of her looking back at past events. So you just need shots of her looking at something, and you need a reaction shot of her reaction to this flashback, to what we, the audience, had just seen. And I think she pulled all those off brilliantly, and that's probably because Jean-Marc Vallee does a really good job directing his actors. And I think the same can definitely be said for Reese Witherspoon in Wild. Her character was entirely damaged, yet we still rooted for her because she had the will to want to continue on, and that is why I liked her character. And there are even moments where I kind of connected with her character and said to myself, yeah, I even look at myself too sometimes. You know, it's hard to self-examine ourselves and pick out our own flaws. She does that a lot in this movie, and she does it very well. There's scenes where she breaks down. There's scenes where she's trying to interact with other people, feel more like a human, even though she's on this hike and she's trying not to quit. There are lots of scenes, especially early on in the film, where she's like, don't quit, don't quit. You hear it in voiceovers, don't quit, don't quit. So, I mean, yeah. Because of that, her performance really paid off. I really appreciated the character. I admired the character. That's the word. Reese Witherspoon's performance was so good. She made me admire a character that we all aren't really supposed to root for, even though she is trying to redeem herself. I mean, she's done so many wrong things. I did root for her because of what she was trying to do, and that is the biggest praise I can give Reese Witherspoon. Laura Dern was also good in the movie. Not Oscar-worthy, not Oscar nomination-worthy, in my opinion. She was just good. I don't know what some people are seeing in her, saying, like, yeah, she does deserve an Oscar nomination. She was just good. Nothing incredible. Good. Just good. But, yeah, guys, so those are really my feelings on Wild. Here's my thing with this movie. It's not the type of film where the cinematography is going to blow you away or the directing style is going to blow you away, because I honestly had a flaw with the directing style that Jean-Marc Vallee has chosen to go down, which is the same as Dallas Buyers Club, which I'll get into. It's not like the score or anything like that, the music that they used or anything like that is going to blow you away. What really, really blows you away is the Reese Witherspoon's central performance, the story itself, and the way the story is conveyed, in that I like how they didn't just decide to have her interacting with Edward. Let's say, how much different would this film have been if she was on this hike with a friend or with someone she knew? How much different would it be? It would be incredibly different. It would have been a whole other different movie. And for that reason, I'm glad that they didn't go that route and they just had this character looking at her past mistakes through flashbacks and using a lot of voiceover and narration and stuff like that. Things that my screenwriting professor never likes to use, really. But all that being said, I like how this film went down that route, and a lot of films don't go down that route, and this film did. It had the guts to do it, and I think it pulled it off very well. The flashbacks worked. I never got confused as to what event was set where or anything like that. I think the flashbacks were appropriately placed within the film. The film was very well edited, and for all those reasons, I'm going to give Wild a solid 8.5 out of 10. I think this is a somewhat moving film. I think it is definitely powerful in scenes. I think it is as powerful as it is because of how great Reese Witherspoon is in this movie. She's completely Oscar-worthy. Definitely gives a really solid performance. I thought the script was very well done. I liked the story as a whole. The whole themes of self-examination and seeking redemption and the will to fight are all prevalent in this movie, and I think they are all played out very well, and they are used to their strengths, and I liked all of that with this film. But then getting into a flaw or two I had with the film, there are a few slow scenes in the beginning of the movie. I think when the film really kicked in, I would say about 30 minutes in, I was like, okay, I'm really in for this story. I'm really in for this journey. And as her story sort of unravels and sort of is shown to us, the audience, I cared for this movie more and more, and it's why I was definitely invested in it. And her story and her will to survive, her will to keep going. So that was one thing. The beginning was slightly slow. And my other thing isn't really a complaint. It's sort of a criticism on Jean-Marc Vallee as a director. And it ties into Dallas Buyers Club. I'm going to explain this briefly, but here's my thing with Wild. Wild looks exactly like Dallas Buyers Club in regards to the way it is shot. Jean-Marc Vallee, for 90% of this movie, uses a certain handheld style. all the shots, almost all the shots are handheld, and that they're a little, you could tell they're handheld because the camera bobs a little bit as it's being held. And it's not like it's a shaky camera or anything like that. But Jean-Marc Vallee did the same exact thing in Dallas Buyers Club. And that was my one complaint with Dallas Buyers Club. I felt Dallas Buyers Club was a film that didn't need to be shot handheld. I think it would have looked a whole lot different and maybe even been better. I love Dallas Buyers Club, don't get me wrong. But I don't know, I think that was my one complaint with that movie. It didn't need to be handheld. This film, on the other hand, I get why it was handheld, and I feel it was actually, it made sense for it to be handheld. Reese Witherspoon dealing with things out in the wilderness, stuff like that. You have flashback sequences that are handheld. I think that worked, so I think it worked for this movie. But here's my criticism to Jean-Marc Vallee. I would like to see the guy do another film that doesn't look like Wild and Dallas Buyers Club. I was hoping for that with Wild, and I didn't get that because both films literally look like they were shot by the same guy and directed by the same guy, and they were. But when you look at a great director like Martin Scorsese or Steven Spielberg, and you look at all their films and you did not know that they directed their certain films. Look at Scorsese and Taxi Driver and The Departed real quick. Can you honestly tell me that both films were directed by the same guy? Or The Departed and Shutter Island, or Shutter Island and Taxi Driver. You can't even tell they're directed by the same guy unless you know. And that is why that is what I feel Jean-Marc Vallee needs to do in order to become a even more successful director, is to have range and have different choices as a director, not just use the same handheld style. So if he makes a third film and I see it and it looks exactly like Wild and Dallas Buyers Club, I'm not going to be happy, and I'm actually going to hold that against that movie. But as of right now, it's just a minor complaint I have. I would like to see him improve upon that and do something different with the style in which he films movies. Other than that, that's all I have to say about Wild. 8.5 out of 10 or a B. I definitely recommend you check out this film at some point, guys. Maybe at matinee price. I think it's an uplifting story. I think it's a powerful story. I think it's a story that may inspire a few of you. And I think it's a really personal story, which is the most important. That's why I recommend you check it out. So guys, those are my thoughts on Wild. If you've seen the movie, please let me know what you thought about it down below in the comments. I'd really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching my review, guys. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.